Does the story of Jesus tell us just how to get to heaven, or did the abundant life Jesus said he came to bring mean more of a better life here on earth, not just some hope that we get by the skin of our teeth into heaven for eternity? My guest today, Craig Scharton, has written a book in which declares he's starting a new religion. Now, don't run away yet. It's not that scary. He says this religion would parallel a Jesus type teaching that's making sure followers live in wholeness of body, mind, and soul. And the word salvation or saved or healed in the New Testament is the Greek word sozo, which means to be restored body, mind, and soul. And that's what Craig wants to see happen in people's lives. He also happens to be one of my best friends on earth, and I think you're going to love him too. He's the author of a new book called Conscious Life, Conscious Death. And he's here on my podcast today to share about what that conscious life looks like, and maybe more importantly, how do we do conscious death and do it well? Let's get Craig's perspective on how to live the abundant life. God is not mad at you, everyone. Here's today's pod with a happy God. And welcome everyone to the podcast. I am Paul, Pastor Paul, the Unconventional Pastor, and we're talking about a world where God is not mad at us. God's not this horrible, crazy thing trying to throw us into hell or make us into Republicans, whichever comes first. Glad you're with me on the podcast today. And I'm really excited about today's podcast because we're going to talk about a new religion, I think, something like that. And I'm excited because it's a podcast with one of my favorite people in the world. Craig Scharton is a podcast partner of mine. We've done a podcast together even before COVID and then throughout COVID called Two Guys Talking Fresno, which is here in our local area. And he's now an author of a new book called Conscious Life, Conscious Death. Let me show you that. The Conscious Life, Conscious Death. And it's an idea for a new religion. And so we're going to find out about the heresy of this book from Craig Scharton. Craig, good to see you. Welcome to the podcast. Oh, wait, I can't hear you now.
There we go. The microphone. There you are. I said, I was saying, I hope it scores high on the heresy index. That will be good.
Is that right? You're happy to be listed as a heretic today?
Well, it depends on who's listing, I guess. But probably the people that call other people heretics will have me right up there. But I was probably up there before.
Well, Rob Bell was called a heretic by Franklin Graham on Larry King. So if we can hit that level, we'll really know we've made it somewhere. And so, you know, when I used to just do audio podcast, I never had to worry about my hair. And now when we're doing video, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? So cool. Glad you're with me. So, you know, we've talked a lot about a lot of topics through the years, a lot of discussion about religion and our concern about where sort of American Christianity is going. And I wrote a novel critiquing it. You've created something entirely new, and the book cover declares an idea for a new religion. So tell us where you came up with the idea for starting a new religion.
Well, it really started back in the mid-90s. I had been doing a lot of research personally with psychology, philosophy, religion, just where they all intersect. I always look for that intersection point. And a lot of just study about how to live a conscious life. And in one book, the author is asked, well, why would you want to live a conscious life? And he says, to have a conscious death. And I really thought, wow, that nails it all, because that's what Socrates did. That's what Jesus did. So many of the mythology and the religion and literature and all of that, really, that's a theme that you'll find pretty consistently once you start looking for it. And so I kept trying to live a conscious life. And what I found was that it always ended up like a hobby. Like I'd have work and I'd have family and I'd have friend relationships to maintain and yard work and dog and all this other stuff. And whatever might be left over, you know, somewhere, if there was anything left over, I would try to go back and work on my consciousness in whatever form that might be. And what I realized was it's never going to happen, or it's not going to certainly reach its potential unless I focus on it. And I was thinking about the good parts of religion, how it really affects your whole life, right? So you give thanks for breakfast, and hopefully give thanks and think about the well-being of others before you go to sleep. And, it's just this constant reminder in your life, whether you're Muslim, Catholic, whatever you are, it really is a star for you to point yourself toward. And so my thought was, instead of having the worrying about bushes burning, or, what happened 3,000 years ago and we argue about it, or what happened 500 years, or whether there's a spaceship or not, we just cut out all the other stuff and say, let's make consciousness our North Star or South Star, whatever you like. And let's just focus on that first and incorporate it into our daily lives, our conversations. And maybe if we do that, we can make a little bit more progress toward that goal.
So you're talking about religion without a deity.
Right.
And I think you answered this a little bit in that, but tell me more. Why call it a religion?
Well, multiple reasons. The primary one is just because it's an opportunity to have an entity that has a group of people that are all sort of rowing in the same direction, and can be incorporated pretty much in our life throughout our day. We can just keep saying, yes, this is what I do. I meditate in the morning and in the evening. I think about what kind of clothes I can buy, or how I'm going to get from point A to B to have the most consciousness toward the planet or others, or my finances or my health, or all these different things. And so there's really nothing else like a religion. So I went on Facebook one time and basically said, what don't you like about religion? And of course, within minutes, I had this very long list. And I thought, how could you build a religion and push eliminate the problems that go along with it, as kind of a mental exercise. And so that's what I've tried to do. And you could read the book and say, I even list the problems that were listed that day. Did I successfully create something that avoids the things that we say we hate about religion? And so far, the response has been very positive.
So it's not exclusive from a religious belief system somebody might have already. It's just focusing towards kind of this idea of conscious life and conscious death.
Yeah, I imagine that the first people that will want to go through this process with me will be most likely Christians that I know, but they are non-dogmatic, jerks about their religion. They're already very open-minded. They wouldn't think that Satan is behind yoga, for example, like I know some people do, or you could get a massage without having to feel guilty and burning in hell for it. Those kinds of things. those little things.
And I think some of us, we're calling ourselves the deconstructing Christians out there, that when we see like this church over the weekend that was chanting, "Let's go Brandon," being led from the stage by these chants, maybe it's time for a relook at what religion is in that way.
Yeah, well, especially in Christianity, that's been a long, it's needed to reinvent itself over and over again, from, the first 400 years to, becoming a weird, deal that was basically like a government structure, and popes that fed people feces at a dinner party, to other popes that shot arrows into a crowded courtyard.
Wait, who fed people feces?
Yeah, you have to go back. I haven't read it for years, but I think it was, what's the name of that book by Barbara Tuchman? I'll think of it, I think, during the conversation. And it's basically about entities, government entities or others, that behave so badly that they were doing things that weren't in their own best interest. And she talks about how basically the Catholics caused the Reformation by all of this really bad behavior by the popes and the powers that be.
Wow, that's a new one. I'll have to follow up on that. That's one story I haven't heard yet, so I'll have to check
Yeah,
that
that's delightful, isn't it?
out. Beautiful. Well, and I've read your book, and it's very good, and I encourage people to read it. The big question, besides the religion part, which we may have to revisit a little bit more, is if conscious life, conscious death is where we're going with this sort of new religion, if you will. What does it mean to have a conscious life? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean to have a conscious death? You said even Jesus had a conscious death.
Well, so the conscious life part is, acknowledging that we all have, interior programming from our body, our genes, our organs, wanting us to do certain things, whether that's eat or reproduce or work too hard or whatever. And then we also have exterior forces, or back to our parents, family, teachers, coaches, whatever, and just even your friend group, your boss. They all are putting pressure on us to do certain things and act certain ways. And so being conscious means you're aware of those things, but you are still crafting a course for yourself that is authentic to who you are. And you're making decisions that are good for you and your community and ultimately the planet. So, everything from individual health to group health to neighborhood health, all the way up to, we've got this global warming crisis, staring us in the face. And I don't see religion or government or business able to tackle this. And so I think as a group, we could all help each other out, and we could help each other find ways to do things better. So I use an example of conscious clothing. Like, do you just go to the store, buy something off the rack? Is it made of plastic? Is it made by people who aren't paid a living wage? Is it going to go into a landfill when you're done? Are the inks chemicals, or are they something natural? Like, you could go through just any part of your life and think, I would like to be more conscious about how I choose to consume, how my home is, how my transportation works, how I interact with people on a conscious level, and just go all the way through that list and know that if you were doing things more consciously, that it would have a really positive result for you and the people around you.
Wow. Let me jump in and interrupt just for a second, because I love this. I've just been rewriting my coaching curriculum, and we're like simpatico with this, because I talk about what I call the oxygen mask theory of life, that in the airplane, they tell you when the oxygen mask drops down, you do what? You put it on yourself first. You have to have resource to be able to take care of anybody else. And so we talk about working on ourselves, and then the manifestation of that is going to be my mindset and relational tools of how I interact with the circle around me is going to be impacted by that. And then ultimately the sign of my true well-being is going to be that I want to impact a world that's beyond my little circle. In fact, generationally, I'm going to want to impact 2 to 3 generations down the line. And so it sounds like that's a little bit of what you're talking about, that conscious life is, being taking care of ourselves, and then being really aware of what we're doing that impacts even a world of people that don't know us and we don't know them.
Right. Well, and we also can get into that thing where we don't have the balance between we're just focusing on ourselves and no one else,
right?
Or we're just focusing on everyone else and not ourselves. And I think with consciousness, it's both. We're trying to, and it's never that straight line. You're just kind of trying to stay in there somewhere. So you're not just completely narcissistically wrapped in yourself, but you're also helping out your neighbor or the person next to you. And when you do that, then you learn a little bit more about yourself and vice versa. So it's this constant, attempt at living a more conscious life. And,
and that leads to a conscious death.
Well, that's what I would say. If I know that you work a lot with Christians, but really, Jesus had the opportunity not to die, but he went into it with his eyes wide open. And Socrates, the same thing. his friends said, we can get you out of Athens, and you'll be fine. And kind of everyone wanted him to do that. And he said, no, these people aren't going to learn the lesson unless, they've already told me I have to drink this. I'm going to look them in the eye and drink it, and it's going to really fall bad on them. Or Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've got modern mythology that still uses that really image throughout time of where you say, look, the lightsaber goes through him and he comes back as a bigger force. It's a bigger deal. So, and in the Northeast, we used to have American Indians that would go into battle, and their battle cry is, today is a great day to die. That is like, if you're going to go into battle, are you going to go in, dragging your feet and horrified and crying like crazy for your mom? Or, there you are. This is one way or the other, but I'm going to go in all the way without fear, or as little fear as possible, and have my eyes wide open.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Craig.
I was going to say, so the energetic play is not that we know what happens after death, but if anything happens after death, like the Tibetan Buddhists or others would say, you're supposed to go in with your eyes wide open so that you can make the decisions to take you somewhere good as opposed to bad. I don't believe in that, but like, if there is something, you would want to go into it that way. But the real trick for me is, if I'm laying on a bed, knowing it's my last breath, I want to have my family around me. I wanted to do it my way. I want to know I'm not leaving a mess for my son and daughter-in-law to have to deal with a bunch of stuff. And I also want to know that I don't have regrets, that I told people I love them. I apologized to them when I needed to apologize to them. I knew I cared for people, and that, that made people's lives better. And that's the way I'd want to go, right? So if I start doing those things now, I will be much more likely to have that, good end of life experience that I think is the result of living a good life.
That's Craig Scharton. He's the author of this book, Conscious Life, Conscious Death, an idea for a new religion. It's a really fascinating read, and I think important in the season as we have learned. We just need to learn a new way to live, and I think most of us would agree about that. And so you don't particularly have a theology of afterlife in your religion. In fact, you really don't have any theology for the supernatural at all.
No, that's entirely up to other people.
Or against a supernatural belief either.
No, one of my favorite phrases is knock yourself out. I mean, because when I read back in time about consciousness, or look at what they're doing now in neurology and psychology, like it is really hard work. Like everything is pulling against you and pushing against you not to live a conscious life. So unless you're focused, you're the chances of getting anywhere good are not really there. So if that's someone that holds up Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, their image of God, whatever that might be, if that helps them, then that's what it's there for, in my opinion. It's a way for them to be able to visualize the mythology that gets them to the goal that they want. I think mostly we just get distracted by the story and forget what the point is.
So the idea is to help people focus in, and this isn't just a self-help book. You kind of are wanting to put together a process and maybe even sort of a place for this.
Right. Well, that's what I'm doing now. I am not a guru. I am not a health guru.
You're not the cult leader of this, huh?
No, I am not. I am the every person who needs all of this.
Man, I hope you're enjoying the podcast today. We'll have more with our guest, but first, please allow me to interrupt and invite you to engage our Pastor Paul community as we pursue the unconventional 21st century spiritual life. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on TikTok, and join us throughout the week for our spiritual life moments. Our spiritual mindfulness moments is Wednesday morning, Thursday, we release the new podcast every week. Saturday morning is Pastor Paul's Bible Talk. And Sunday morning, we come together to share life and share in the Christian tradition of communion, but all are welcome in our Sunday community. And once a month on Tuesdays, we're starting our new Unconventional Conversations discussion groups. I want you to join us for that. Find out all the details about how to pursue the 21st century unconventional spiritual life together through my website at pastor-paul.com. And while there, click on that support tab and support our community and receive all kinds of special resources and cool stuff as you help support to keep this community moving forward. See, we don't take up tithes. We don't cater to sort of monthly ministry donors. We raise our funding through subscriptions and selling content and coaching. And we do it all through the Pastor Paul community. And it's through our for-profit ministry because I want to do my part and pay taxes to have roads and schools and fire departments and police and all those things in my community. And I believe all of us, even you churches, we should be doing our part to pay taxes with joy to help support the things in our community. So I hope you'll help support me, pastor-paul.com. Click on that support tab and also join us for all this pursuit of the unconventional spiritual life throughout the week. And let's pursue that spiritual life together. Now back to the pod, where I love to say God is not mad at you.
I am not a guru. I am not a health guru. I'm not.
You're not the cult leader of this, huh?
No, I am not. I am the every person who needs all of this. And I really followed the old entrepreneurial rule that if you have a problem and you can find a solution that helps you, it might also help other people too, right? So that's kind of what this is for me, is that I would like this. I would love to be around people that are supportive of living a healthy, conscious life in all of those aspects. So there is a church part to it, but it's not me preaching at anyone. It is all of us trying to figure it out the best we can and sharing with each other and creating a place where we can work on our health goals, our financial goals, our vocational goals, our limberness goals. I mean, whatever those things might be, that we can help each other through, good, healthy food, exercise, meditation, sleep, that we can all do those things that we know we need to do and should be doing and aren't doing, and have a place that's supportive of that so that it helps us stay on our path.
And so there's an idea maybe of communal living or sort of semi-community, at least a community of looking for conscious life together.
Right. Well, there's no requirement for communal living, but there is a part of the book where we talk about orientation. And that's not my favorite name for it, but it was the best I could come up with. And that is that you would be able, you're on life's busy highway, and there would be a place where you could pull out for 2 to 6 weeks or whatever it takes for you. And you would actually move in, and you would get healthy food and learn how to cook healthy food. You would get some exercise. You'd get meditation twice a day. We'll have a strand where we all work on like making sure that those annoying details that we have to do to make sure that we're having a conscious death and not leaving that mess behind. So our directives, our wills, all of those kinds of things. We'll understand our finances individually so that we can put together a financial goal. And I really like Jordan Peterson has a self-authoring program. So you can really self-author your past, your present, your future, and kind of break it down into goals that you would like to achieve for the rest of your life. So if that's a career change, if that's moving somewhere, like let's put the path, let's help each other put together a path so that we can all come closer to achieving our goals.
Wow. So I love that idea. So conscious life and sort of the idea of a Buddhist talking about maybe self-actualization or something. Is there a difference? Are they sort of the same thing?
There's a lot of words for it. And transcendence, I think is a really good one right now. There's a great book by Scott Barry Kaufman called Transcend, and it takes all of the work of Maslow, not just the pyramid that he never actually created, and simplified that. Is very, very good work. But Buddhists, I think really Buddhism hits it a lot with right speech, right vocation, all of those things where you're trying to do better in all of these areas. You can borrow from that. Stoicism, I think, is something that I've really gotten a lot out of. That could be helpful for some people. The 12-step program, I think, is a fantastic guide, not just for people in recovery, but a really important series of steps that you can do to not only get your life on track, but keep it there. I just think I've borrowed from so many different religions and philosophies, and science too, to be able to kind of mash it all up together, and I think put together something that's very basic and simple, but it's something that most of us aren't able to achieve on our own. And so it becomes kind of like a culture within a culture, so that you're able to stay on your course with whatever health goals you have, financial goals you have, community goals you have. And like I said, we should be leaving a positive impact on the planet. If a church isn't doing that, then I don't know what the hell they're doing, right?
Well, it's interesting. You listed a whole bunch of philosophies there, and not Christianity is one that's part of it, which
it actually is. It's had a big impact on
me. Of course. And I would say it can be. It's interesting to me because I think if we really look at the story of Jesus, it very much parallels what you're talking about here. And John 3:16 is our, very popular Bible verse from Christianity, but John 3:17 is the one that I love. It says, God didn't send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved, which is this word sozo, this Greek word, which doesn't mean to pray a sinner's prayer, join a church, and go to heaven one day. It means to be restored to wholeness, body, mind, and soul. It actually is not an eternal word. It's actually a present, as Jesus said, on earth as it is in heaven. So I think this idea of being well, having wholeness for body, mind, and soul, emotionally, physically, spiritually, is what Jesus came to say, and said, let's get rid of this idea of a religion that says, follow these rules and God won't be mad at you. Instead, learn that you can partner with life and heaven and goodness and all this stuff and have this sozoed life. And then we take these writings of Paul and we sort of start to put this religion around it. And I actually don't think that was anything that Jesus was really about. So I actually think Christianity parallels it. And it's sad that what Christianity has become, particularly in America these days, would consider itself to be opposed to what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, the oldest fight in the world is really, to me, between order and chaos. And unfortunately, we think order is a good thing and chaos is a bad thing, but it's really, they're both equally good. They're the yin and yang of, yes, you want order, but you also want the flow of creativity and open ideas and all of the beauty and all of those things as well. And so, when I look back through Christianity or Greek mythology or anything else, that's what I see. And it's as old as the human brain and heart is. And so how do we break through that and say, let's help each other towards some kind of balance that's, mind, body, and spirit, just like you said, and take those old lessons and parse them out. I think that deconstruction, reconstruction idea is really fantastic. Because then you're not arguing about stupid Leviticus. Like, get over it. Like, it's not relevant. Like, we got a planet to save. We've got children dying in our neighborhoods. We've got, people that, children having type 2 diabetes in an epidemic proportions. And yet we're having these other stupid arguments. Like, to me, the real test, like, I go to some churches on the poor side of the town, of our town, and I see a beautifully manicured lawn around a church, and the neighborhood all around it's falling apart. And, it's just like, this is just not translating into a better world. Now, that's not everyone we know, because we know a lot of people that are making a difference too.
Sure.
but there's just too much of the other. It's just we've got really important stuff to do.
Well, my wife and I have heard it often from our Christian friends here in our area, Fresno, when we're saying, "Hey, we've got to change things in the city, where our city has a lot of financial and racial division challenges, economic opportunity challenges, quality of life challenges, depending on what zip code you live in." And we will have Christian friends literally tell us, "Hey, that's not our job. Our job is to get people saved and to heaven." And I just say, you're reading a different Bible than me at that point. And some of it is like what you say. I think, I don't know if you called it chaos, the political theory of people will always choose totalitarianism over anarchy, comes out of a human need for certainty. And I think religion is that too. Just tell me what the rules are so I can figure out where I am in that. When in fact, in the deconstruction that a lot of us are walking through, we're starting to say, it's okay to not know the answer. It's okay for you to think it may be this, that hell may look like this, and I think it may look like this, and that's okay. Let's journey together and continue to wrestle with those concepts. So maybe some of what we need to teach out of the idea of a conscious life is you don't have to have certainty. And if you have to have certainty of like what the afterlife looks like, you're going to settle for some bad theology or some bad ideas. So I'm with you. There's something to chaos and uncertainty.
Well, there is. And
maybe chaos is not the best word. Nobody seems to like chaos, but
right.
Uncertainty perhaps.
Yeah. And especially the people that like order don't like it. It's, it really becomes, I wish there was a better word, but it's funny how, we take, Thomas becomes doubting Thomas, which is very bad because he's questioning everything. And like, let's make him look like a bad guy out of the 12.
Should he be thinking Thomas or
maybe be like, some creator gave him a brain that works. And why is he using it? That's evil. It's just goofy. So, but that's what structure doesn't like that. So let's make the guy with questions look bad. So, and I would say, so we have a word called flake. We'll call someone a flake. And, maybe they're a really great artist, but they can't figure out how to get to a place on time, or, they don't balance their checkbook just right. And that's a very negative term for someone who might be super talented and might not have the strengths of the person who knows how to do the checkbook and schedule things. So what if we pair those two and they're neither good or bad, but they're complementary to each other? And that's where I really think our solutions come from. If we can just get over the fact that the people in marketing hate the people in accounting, and instead realize that without either of them, the company is dead, and figure out how to work together. That's really a lot of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get there. Otherwise, how are we ever going to get through the sort of divides and discord of the season? I guess is being able to say you get to think differently than me.
Yeah,
how crazy would that be?
It's awesome. Get up, try poetry if you want, or get up and try whatever. I mean, we need. I look out at society and I say we could use a hell of a lot more bookkeepers than we have, because if our neighbors were on a path where they understood how their finances worked, then they could buy a home or send their kid to school or have a little bit more peace of mind. Just like, the lady a few doors down from me who can't get out of her little walker thing because she's so obese now that her legs won't hold her. Well, who's doing something about that? Not even the food bank is giving them good food. So let's have a place here where she can come in and she can eat a whole food plant-based diet for a month and see if she can take some more steps and see if it maybe clears her brain a little bit. And, I don't think you need a miracle to heal people. You need to give them healthy food and a little bit of exercise. A little blue zones plays a big role in what I've tried to put together, which is the idea where people live the longest, healthiest lives, and they eat very basic food and move around. And they have strong community relationships with each other. And Yeah, I just don't think that there's a person out there that if they did that for 30 days, they wouldn't come out feeling better, and all their health markers would be better. And if they felt like they had a path to maybe have a more successful life, whatever that is for them, I mean, what better thing could religion do for you?
Yeah. I want to talk more about how people can get involved, but I do want to let people know part of what I'm doing here. And this podcast is a part of what we call the pursuit of the unconventional spiritual life. A lot of you listening to this podcast have maybe left behind your church community, or you're thinking about it, but you're afraid, like, what's out there for me if I'm not a part of a church community anymore? And so those of you on YouTube can see the graphic of sort of this, what the unconventional spiritual life is. I wish they hadn't put my picture, because now I look like the cult leader of this religion. But I guess somebody thought it would be help marketing to put my face on there. But Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific, we do a spiritual mindfulness moment where we have a time of mindfulness and prayer together. Thursday, we release the Unconventional Conversation podcasts. Saturday, I do a Bible talk we call Pastor Paul's Bible Talk, which is sort of your sermon of the week if you're into that. And then Sunday morning, we come together for Sunday community to share life and share in the Christian tradition of communion. And then the third Tuesday of each month, we're going to do a discussion group time called Unconventional Talk. So all of that's coming up. I have a new website and all kinds of cool stuff coming up. So I just keep teasing people with that along the way. But Craig Scharton is with us, the author of Conscious Life, Conscious Death. And so if somebody is intrigued by what they're hearing, of course, they can buy the book and read about it, but tell more about how they find you and how do they actually get involved in what you're doing.
Well, so I do have a website up, and I try to keep it up, somewhat. It's called CLCD for Conscious Life, Conscious Death, clcdcommunity.org. And so that's where you can find the book.
Let me put that on the screen for everybody. Is that at clcdcommunity.org?
Yes, sir. That is it. And that's where we'll have events and things like that. But really what I'm trying to do, I think initially, is get some people involved so that I'm not doing all of this, because I really don't want this to be about me. And that's, some of these things just aren't my strengths. But if you're interested in health, whether you're a health professional or others, if you're interested in food, healthy food, if you're interested in growing food, if you're interested in accounting or bookkeeping or the legal parts of doing all of this stuff that every entities need to do, whatever it is that you're interested, if you want to plug in and see if it benefits you and if there's a role that you can benefit other people, that's really how it's going. I plan to get 4 people in through the first cohort of orientation, hopefully in January. And then we'll start showing people like how this works. I think that's going to be much more effective than just writing it or talking about it, but actually have some people live together for a month. Like I said, the healthy food, exercise, meditation, putting together these strands of their lives so they feel like they have a good path by the time they leave. And I'd really like to find someone that's good at video, social media, those things, so we can continue to share those results. And then we'll have speakers come in the evening. Anyone is welcome to come for dinner, as long as they let us know that they're coming, so people can have their family with them every night if they want. Other friends can visit, see what we're up to. Transparency's got to be a huge part of this, because it is not a cult. It is not whatever. It is going to be the most open thing that you've ever seen. 100% transparency on the website for the finances as we develop that, so that we don't fall prey to the other things that have made people hate religion. Let's identify what they are and remove those obstacles. And I will not be leading this thing for all time. My goal is at 3 to 5 years that I'm a member, just like everyone else.
clcdcommunity.org. So you're not taking up tithes and offerings for this, huh?
At some point, we would have people that want to contribute, and we'll have a way for that to happen. But again, it will all be transparent on the website. If you give $1, it's going to say Paul Swearingen $1, and you're going to be able to see how much we're spending on food or energy or whatever we're spending the money on as a group. I believe, I mean, it's so easy to do right now. I mean, anybody that's run QuickBooks knows that you can easily put all of your finances on your website for anyone to look at. But I don't see churches doing that. And part of calling it a religion is I want to show churches that there could be a different way to operate than they're operating now.
And this idea of taxing churches is kind of gaining some steam. And again, after watching the Let's Go Brandon Church over the weekend, I'm starting to get there. And at very least, I think we ought to require not-for-profits to, at least covenant with the community that a large percentage of their income is benefiting the community at large and not just their small church community. Because I hear from right-wing Christians all the time, like, we're the most charitable giving people in the world. And I'm like, yeah, as long as we call giving money to make sure you have comfortable seats to sit in on Sunday morning charity. It's the money you give for the sound system in the church. If we call that charity, yes, but there's some bit of return for you in that giving. And I'm really starting to think we ought to say to churches, you got to show us at least, I don't know what the percentage would be, 45%, 50% is going to actually benefit the community outside the building. And that would change things an awful lot, I think.
Well, like we've, for one, I've already stated that we're going to pay property tax. Because if you're going to buy a building and then sell it, you're going to hope that value goes up. So you're basically a developer or a property owner at that point. So you also, if the building catches on fire or a parishioner has a heart attack, you're going to call and want someone to show up. So how can you do that? And so we're going to do that voluntarily. And I've been involved with municipal government for a long time. I really don't like to see people that don't contribute their fair share when your community is trying to put together education and public safety and parks and all those things. And you've got big, huge, complexes that aren't even paying a penny. It just doesn't add up. So we want to do that. Just again, trying to think through all the things people don't like and see if there's a way that we can make a correction.
Yeah. And I've moved the work that I do completely to for-profit now, and it costs me, but I want to be a part of helping to contribute to roads and schools and all of the things in my community, and be honest that the money that's coming in is supporting me and my household, and not, sort of make it this idea that it's charity. The money that people give to my Patreon page and everything else, I always say it helps feed hungry kids, and those hungry kids are my kids.
Right. Yeah, they're paying you to do your work. I mean, you wouldn't, if you go to a rock concert, you're buying a ticket. You are assuming that it's going to pay the band and roadies and, people that are taking your ticket at the door, right?
Exactly.
Those costs to do things. The other thing that I really want to do is, if you said there are 3,000, homeless people in Fresno, and there are 300 churches, that's 10 homeless people per church. And I really want to make sure that we're doing our share, which I hope will encourage other people to do their share as well, because we make that into a huge problem. But if we all just did our part, it wouldn't be that big a thing. And you could take that into all kinds of different social needs that we have right now.
So require each church in Fresno to adopt and take care of 10 homeless people and get them off the street.
Yeah. And I'm not saying require, I'm just saying I'm going to try to consciously figure out what our part of the pie should be. And then when we do that, it'd be really great if someone else said, oh yeah, well, we can do that too. So trying to lead by example. Yeah. I'm sure there are other churches that are doing that sort of thing. I just don't hear from them that much. They're probably too busy doing good work. but we're going to try to do our part as well.
Interesting stuff. The book is Conscious Life, Conscious Death, An Idea for a New Religion from Craig Scharton. There's the book. They can get it on Amazon or on your website?
They can get it on Amazon. They can go right to Amazon, or they can get to Amazon through the website. It's probably the easiest way to do it. And if they live in Fresno, I have it at Petunia's Place, which is a children's book and local authors store. And then you and I are going to sell some books next weekend, I think.
Yeah, and if somebody's listening to this podcast before November 20th, I believe that's Saturday, right? We will be at if you're in the area, we'll be at Root downtown Fresno at 11 a.m. podcasting, and then do book signing after that.
That's right. So that'll be fun. And that's going to be the day of the Fulton Street party. So, 4 years, 4-year anniversary of the Fulton Street party. So there'll be a lot of people downtown, and it should be fun. And it's always fun with you.
Yeah.
So we'll have a good time and have more books at another local place. So we'll have the opportunity for those who can buy locally to be able to do that. And I would say if anyone wants to have a Zoom with some friends or anything like that, I'm very open to having these discussions, and I learn a lot from them as well. I'm really looking for feedback.
As I've learned in coaching, cohorts can be nationwide rather than just local.
Yeah.
So you may learn to do some of that online. Well, good stuff, Craig.
I was in one of those.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
Very great. And the people that you are attracting to this are just my favorite people, and I'm so glad you're doing this. I don't know if you caught me a few times. I'm trying to explain to like traditional Christians that your role of ministering to people who are losing or questioning their faith is as important a role as is out there, because that is a very scary, even dangerous time for people. Ministering to the people that are already willing, going to a building and buying everything you're selling, that's not that hard to do.
No.
Put up whatever songs they like to hear, and everyone's happy, and they throw something in the jar and leave, and have coffee cake afterwards. Piece of cake.
And we all agree to the same community narrative, right?
Yeah, right. That doesn't take a genius. I mean, what you're doing is people. I mean, I've had friends that have left the Mormon church or the Catholic church or whatever, that was such an ingrained part of who they were and their family and their friends and all of that. And then to lose that is just, it's like when a person first becomes depressed, you just don't know how far the bottom is going to drop.
Well, it's a death. It is truly a mourning, grieving period. And one of the things I've found through all of this is, you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I sort of break it down to a basic of, as human beings, we need safety, value, and purpose. We need to know we're not going to die, and that usurps everything. We'll do anything not to die. And then we want to know that we matter to somebody, that there's somebody that cares that we exist. And when those are in place, then there's just something innately in us as human beings that has to be coached out of us to say, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to change something. And so getting past barriers that keep us from those things, I think, are really valuable towards getting people to a place where they're not trying to just protect me and my two over here, but saying, hey, there's real value for me benefiting people beyond my sphere. And I think if we can all learn that, and I think it was the teachings of Jesus, we can really have a great world together, where we actually feel like it's important for me to care about you and you to care about me and we to care about a bunch of others out there as well.
Yep. That mattering word just keeps coming up over and over and over, and all the psychological literature around consciousness and health. So I think you're right on it. So,
and isn't it interesting that this is, so we all say, well, blame it on mom, let's blame it all on mom. But I'm finding the American dream, the American way of life, particularly now where we're forcing families to have two-income families, whether they want to or not, goes a long way in telling our children they don't matter. What matters is dad's job, mom's job, and we'll fit you around that. And we have a generation that has really grown up, I think, in Xers and millennials now, of being told by our very design of our household that we don't matter. And it's left a mark, I think. And so I'm seeing in the millennials and Gen Zers, and some of it healthy and some not so much, that they're saying, sort of screw this idea of the American dream and let's start to live life a little bit differently. And I think that's really important. I'm not against work and working hard, but just the way it has played out, I think, in the last couple of generations in America, probably even dating back to that greatest generation group, we integrate into our kids and then bring this shame-based religion on top of it and say, you don't matter. And in fact, you're pretty cruddy of a person. And it makes us into something that we have to then work our whole life to figure out how to not believe those things about ourselves anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's just, there are a few different parts of our life. And the more of those that we have going in the direction, that we really want them to go, including vocation, including family, the healthier we're going to be and the more successful we'll be at those relationships.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So, and we can't control what's going to happen in the world, but we can control what we do in our part of it. And we can always decide that we want to grow from the events of the world or even in our own life.
Good stuff, Craig. I've gone longer than I planned, but that's what always happens when you and I start talking. So.
We've gone on for hours before, folks. This is just a little glimpse.
All right. Conscious Life, Conscious Death, CLCDcommunity.org is the website. Check it out. Also, for me, join my Patreon page. All the links are in the bio, and my link tree helps support this ministry, if you will, to tell the world that God's not mad at them and he's not mad at you. So, Craig, good talking to you, man. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe or watch one of the other videos on the screen.